Yee! Hey guys, Tiffany here, and I'm the owner of Tiffany Gordon Cosplay LLC, which is a company that focuses on costume and prop fabrication as well as education. And I'm excited to bring you another tutorial, and this time it is specifically for Nasaka and her sheath and dagger. But before we begin, remember to like this video as well as subscribe to the channel. So let's begin. And here are all of the tools and materials that you will need for fabricating both the sheath and dagger, and I'll have the links to all of this, including the foam, in the description. As well as I'll have the 2D blueprints available on my website for this on TiffanyGordonCosplay.com, link in the description. Now let's first go over how I fabricated the dagger. And for me, I have a Glowforge, which is a laser cutter, and I was kind of wanting to practice around with this, so I used that to cut out all of my foam parts, but you do not need a Glowforge or a laser cutter to cut out any parts of this. Instead, you can use a box cutter, an X-Acto knife, and a cutting mat to cut out each of these pieces. And here's what all of the pieces looked like once I had them cut out. And I'll note that the black foam was 6mm, all of my gray foam I used was 4mm, and the red foam was 2mm. And next, for attaching the pieces together, we're going to be using contact cement glue. Reminder to wear your respirator when using this. And you're going to apply the glue onto both sides of your parts, wait for it to fully dry, and then we're going to start connecting the pieces. Grabbing our main 6mm part of the blade with the combined handle, and we're going to attach our now 4mm part of the handle onto both sides. And then grabbing just the extra little pointy part of the handle, this is going to add a little bit more dimension, another layer onto both sides. As well as to the top part of the handle, there is a somewhat rectangular shape part, and we're gonna add a piece onto either side as well. And that'll complete the top part of the handle of the dagger. And the last little bit of foam that we're gonna be adding to this dagger is there is a detail part on the blade. And for this, I made out of 2mm foam, and we're gonna attach it to either side of the blade. And now for some cleanup. And for this, we're gonna be going to grab our Dremel and our sanding drum, and we're going to sand all the pieces of the handle as flat as possible, and then finishing it out by rounding all of the edges. And that will complete the dagger fabrication part. Now on to the fabrication of the sheath. And for the sheath, I also used my laser cutter to cut out all of the pieces out of foam. Again, you do not need to do this. You can use a X-Acto knife and a box cutter as well as your cutting mat to cut out each of these pieces instead. And I pretty much used 4mm foam for this, as well as for the small little strap part pieces, I did those out of 2mm foam and 10mm for the spacer. And I'll note that when making sheaths, typically the goal is to have the dagger blade insert inside the sheath. And for this, what you're going to want to do is trace the shape of the sheath twice, so it'll be both the top and the bottom half. And then for the middle section, you're just going to want to trace the outside line and then give about 3mm of space around, so that way your blade will be able to insert and you'll have that negative gap in between. And once those parts are cut, apply your contact cement glue. Again, wait for it to fully dry, and then glue all your parts together. And for the main sheath, you should have the full piece followed by your spacer piece. And for your spacer, you're going to want it to be the same or larger thickness of your blade, and then your full piece on the other side. So for me, it was 4mm with the spacer of 10mm, and then another 4mm on top. And then after that, you can add your detail parts to either side. Again, I used 4mm foam. And then to clean it up, using first our sanding drum and our Dremel to sand each of the layers flat together. And then once that's done, you'll go in at an angle onto the edges, rounding it. And the last part of the sheath is the strap part. And the strap part is what is going to hold the dagger inside of the sheath, but you don't necessarily have to do this part if you don't want to. For me, I just cut out a rectangle that was 2mm, and then I had the detail part that I attached on either side of it onto the tip, and this was also 2mm, and then I applied more glue and attached it to the actual sheath part. And that would complete the sheath fabrication portion of this. Now for painting. And here are all of the tools and materials that I used for painting both the dagger and the sheath. A reminder, you do not have to use an airbrush gun and compressor. You can always hand paint this and it's totally fine. And first, we're gonna start with painting the dagger. And as always, when it comes to painting any foam parts, you want to prime them. And for me, I like to use Plasti-Dip, which is a rubber spray paint. And you're going to want to apply this onto all sides of your dagger, and you're going to apply it heavily, allowing in between each coat 30 minutes to 45 minutes for it to dry. And I did this 3 times. Then onto painting. And the paint that we're going to be using is provided by Kratex Colors. These are specifically airbrush paint, but you can use it for hand painting. And the first color that I'm going to be using is my base coat of Wicked Jet Black. And next, we're going to focus on the blade portion. And for this, we're going to be using metallic charcoal, applying it to the entire blade. When that coat of paint was dry, I then used masking tape to mask off all of the silver section. For this, you'll want to get your masking tape, apply it to your leg so it becomes a tiny bit less sticky, and then put it onto all of the silver areas. This will ensure that the tape does not leave any tape residue and will not peel up your paint once you remove it later. Then for the rest of the areas, we're going to be using metallic bronze, spraying it onto all of it evenly, waiting for it to fully dry, and then we're going to go back with a mixture of metallic bronze and jet black, spraying it onto all of the parts. And while the paint is still wet, you're going to grab a paper towel and wipe it away. This is going to leave all of the darker color to go in the crevices, around all the edges, and give it a natural shading, as well as it's going to look more like realistic bronze metal. And the last color of paint that we're going to be using is crimson. And for this, I actually did with a paintbrush, and I just applied it by hand, and this goes into the top part of the handle in the circle section. Then slowly remove all of your masking tape, and the very last step to completing your dagger is to seal it. And for this, we're going to be using Kratex Colors UVLS Satin to apply over the entire piece. This is going to protect all of your paint from not just the sunlight, but just from everything in general, and will give it an even consistent look onto the dagger. Now let's move on to the sheath. And just like the dagger, you're going to want to prime your foam. And for this, we're going to again be using 3 heavy coats of Plasti-Dip. And when that is dry, we're gonna again follow our same base color of jet black, again from Kratex Colors. And now for adding a little bit more details. And for this, we're going to start off with our first color of metallic bronze, focusing on the detail areas with this, waiting for that coat of paint to dry fully. And then again, we're going to be doing a mixture of metallic bronze and Wicked Jet Black. And we're going to apply it over those bronze areas that are already painted. And while the paint is still wet, we're going to get our paper towel and wipe it away again to leave all of the darker colors in the creases and shadows, and making this feel like more realistic bronze metal. Then you're going to want to mask off all of those bronze areas with masking tape, and you're going to do a base coat of Wicked White. And I forgot to film this part, so sorry, but we're going to move on to our next color, which is going to be our main and final color, and it is Yellow Oxide. Then for our last step, it is to remove all of the masking tape and seal the sheath to complete it, and we're going to be using again the UVLS Satin. And the last step was actually adding a snap to the strap part on the sheath, and for this I used a tiny bit of hot glue that I applied to the back side of snaps, and that finished it. You can also use Velcro or just not have a strap, it works totally fine without it, but that is how I made both the sheath and the dagger. make your very own dagger, as well as sheath for your Nasaka costume from Nasaka and the Valley of the Wind. And I hope that this tutorial helped you for making your very own one, or making another type of prop that can help you for your other cosplay. And if so, let me know in the comments, as I'd love to hear from you, as well as don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. A big thank you to all of my company sponsors here on YouTube, as well as all of those YouTube members who financially help to support me so I can continue doing this as my full-time job and my main source of income. So a big thank you specifically to those legendary members. And I will see you for our next cosplay tutorial. Much love, guys.